Welcome back, everybody. We are holding in the prakim between Sha'ar Gimel and Sha'ar Daled in the Nefesh HaHaim. And these are very focused. He's speaking directly to the reader. He's warned the reader against arrogance, haughtiness in his avodas Hashem. And he's now focused on a particular pitfall. And it's very, very clear, we'll see tonight, that he's clearly aiming towards the Hasidic movement and a particular, well, I'll call it a perversion of halacha, where people would be doing the mitzvahs at the wrong time in order to fulfill them with the greatest kavana and purity. And he's going to say that's very dangerous. Don't do that. So I'll let him speak for himself. So here we go. We're in Perek Dalet here. Kama zihirus yiseira. Tzarech ha'adam lihizoyer binyanim ke'elu v'kayotze behem. V'kvar amru zal kol hagadol michaveiro. Yitzro gadol himenu. We've already been through 3 prakim of the Nefesh HaHaim, and if you're still with us, you're growing, and you're davening on a high level, and you're learning Torah Lishma. We talked last time about if you spend a couple hours learning, he almost guarantees that you'll get to at least a few moments of Lishma, and that will be Mekadesh u'Metaher, all of your Torah, to bring it to that very high, beautiful level for which the world was created. So we're on a high level here of divine service. Again, this is the point of the creation of man and of all the universe. But don't let it go to your head, and don't get off the track. And he says now, the greater the person, the greater is his Yetzer Hara. Kol hagadol michaveiro yitzro gadol. And now he has a fascinating insight into the modus operandum of the Yetzer Hara. And we're going to see this. And to me, this has a very particular expression right now in Israeli life of evil masquerading as good. Okay. And so let's see. Here's how it is.
Can this be made bigger? The print is unusually small.
Okay, let me see if I can do that.
Getting there.
Better?
Yeah.
Yeah, much better.
Yofi. Okay, so kol hagadol michaveiro yitzro gadol. Yitzro gadol chemenu. Ki hayetzer mishapech betachbuloisav lekol adam lefi inyano. The Yetzer Hara is not one size fits all, and he's not in one appearance. You know, we picture the red devil or something like that. But the Yetzer Hara is much more sophisticated than that. And he shows up and he appears in a different way towards each person. So let's say there's a person who is very particular about doing things on time. And in general, he's a very orderly person. So the Yetzer Hara for him will be Mr. Orderly. So much so that when his wife is late for this or that, he'll scream at her. Okay, he'll destroy her. And that's his Yetzer Hara, which stems from Amida Toiva of orderliness, and he's Makbid on Zman. But the Yetzer Hara has now taken over his Mida Toiva and tricked him into like kas and verbal abuse of a loved one and so forth. So any Mida Toiva, the Yetzer Hara is going to play off of that and use that to trip you up and bring you into bad things. So you have to be really alert not to fall into the trap of the Yetzer Hara. And it'll be different for each person. Kefi and Yano b'madregaso b'toira b'avoida. She'imu roya shekefi goy v'madregaso shala adam. So this is the Yetzer Hara now. If the Yetzer Hara sees, and remember, the Yetzer Hara is like a koyach, it's a force in the Bria. Chazal call it the Malach HaMavis, hu Yetzer Hara, hu has-Satan. So think of it like an angel with a mission, and his mission is to trip people up and to bring them down. And our mission is not to listen to him and not to let him trip us up, and that way we'll be rewarded. And so that's all part of the divine plan, that there has to be a fair fight, there has to be a pull towards evil, and there has to be our will within to resist that and to overcome that. And that dynamic, that's shnei ksuvim hamakrishin zeh zeh, two forces that are diametrically opposed, and then us finding our way between them, between the Yetzer and the Yotzer, between our drive for, Ra, and our drive to serve God, our Yetzer HaTov and our Yetzer Hara. They're at loggerheads all the time in our lives. And that's really what life is. After death, we will not be in that situation. We'll just be the sum total of our decisions and the rewards that we'll get for everything we did in this life. But while we're alive, we are at battle between the Yetzer HaTov and the Yetzer Hara. And he's now talking about how the Yetzer Hara works, and he's very sophisticated. He's looking to, if he can't bring the person down through like straightforward frontal attack, like do an Avera, eat the pepperoni pizza, okay? And this guy's not going to eat a pepperoni pizza. Come on, I'm a from Yid. I don't do that. That's pasnish. It's way below me. So then the Yetzer Hara will tell him, you should go demonstrate in front of the pizza shop against the people who are eating pepperoni pizzas there. And it'll be a really big Kiddush Hashem. And really, it's not a good idea. He shouldn't go there. He should just stay away. But the Yetzer Hara is tricking him. So the Yetzer Hara is really clever. So, yes, Jay?
Why do we necessarily have to externalize the Yetzer Hara? I mean, it seems to me we're sophisticated enough in our psychology to understand that on a individual's basis, not internal, that we have conflicting forces, and that, for example, we know, we are, we are very educated. We know the Shas, we've gone through Shas many times, and we know a lot more than the average person. So that really, that inflates our ego. And it's all about, fighting the ego. That's what I would say, it's what it's really all about.
Yeah.
You have a certain standard, maybe it is, about, being on time for everything, and basically you realize, that most of the world is not like that. We're not all yuckies, but we feel like we're better than everybody else. And that gives us license, let's say, to put people down because, they're not as punctual as we are.
Yeah. So Jay, I sort of think it's terminological. That psychology has made huge advances really in the late 20th century. Like Jung and Freud, they opened up the whole world of the subconscious. Those things weren't even known when the Nefesh HaHaim was writing, and certainly not Bimei Chazal. They had all different models of the human psyche. They had the four humors and all different things. So you're asking, why do we have to externalize the Yetzer Hara? We're going to see momentarily that he has the Yetzer Hara dwelling inside the human heart. He has a very specific place for it. So, but I wouldn't get caught up with that or frustrated with that or disappointed in that. It's sort of primitive, I grant you, but it's not important. I think it's terminological. The idea is that there's a power within us which is destructive, and it's going to lead us to bad places. And it's going to trick us and masquerade as a positive force. I actually want to read you the language of Rabbi Frankel. He calls this chapter, "The evil inclination disguised as noble destroys self and Torah." Okay, so we're talking about the evil inclination disguising itself as something noble, and it's going to lead to the destruction of self and of a person's Torah. So really, really dangerous. Good evening, Rav Shimon. Welcome. Glad you can make it.
Yeah, sorry, late.
That's okay. You
like
get up tardy, but it doesn't affect your final grade.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's like someone described to me in a shiur, actually, the rabbi, because the Yetzer Hara doesn't show up with a pitchfork and horns. Very often it shows up with a kapata and a strymol and tricks you.
That's right. We're going to see it's more of his tricks in detail. So here we go. So The Yetzer Hara betachbuloisav l'kol adam k'fi inyanu madrigaso b'Torah v'avoda she'imu roya shek'fi goy v'madrigaso shel ha'adam im yasiuhu o yashiu sheyaniach mekoy v'madrigaso lasois befoil eze avon b'chet chamur. Kal, like I said, he tells you, go be Michal Shabbos, go eat a pepperoni pizza. You're not going to do it. Shelo yavelo. So what's the Yetzer Hara do? Hu mitchapes. He masquerades himself. Lizdamois el adam ki Yetzer toiv. So he comes at us exactly like you said. He puts on a gartel and he puts on his shtreimel and he's the Rosh Hashiva now. And he's giving you these great eitzes of how to be really from. Lisamot sichlo. He's blinding your mind. Lahatil eres. Putting poison in there. Lahat oiso ba'oiso oifen. V'madrega atzma. She'adam davuk ba. He's going to use your midos, your madrega, the things you care about. And he's going to turn them into something destructive. It's really insidious. It's really dastardly. And we have to be so careful because we all fall for this. We all do. Shemar elo ba eze derech hanir ele adam v'ashkafa rishoina shu atzat yitzro hatov. He's showing you some eitzah. Oh, this is a really good idea. I should do that. And it looks like it's a yetzer hatov. Lahadricho b'derech yoiser gavoa. Oh, that'll be great. It's showing you simane tahara, signs of purity. Ve'adam nofel berishto, and the person falls quickly into the trap.
It's like it's almost like any propaganda.
There's some truth in it, right?
Well, not only some truth, but in order to get people to do what you want, you have to kind of lead them to it step by step. When you look back what Paro did, Paro couldn't just get the whole Egyptian nation to turn on the Jews. He had to do it in stages, and he had to lay the groundwork psychologically and get them to turn. We saw that in Europe in the 30s and 40s, whatever. So this is classic. I mean, this is the way.
This is the way evil works. It's exactly right. So a person falls for it, though. There's a certain foolishness in people that these are like useful idiots, and it's all of us that we fall for this propaganda, like you say, like a bird into the trap. Beli his boinanus rav, velo yada, and you don't realize. Ki benavshohu, you're losing your soul. It's taking away your very essence. Beraglov yordois mavis chas v'shalom, and your legs are carrying you down to death and destruction. It's awful, but it happens every day.
Well, the other problem,
yes.
The other aspect is the numbers game, because if you're an outlier, then and you're one against the hordes and the millions, then you may not fall into that. But when the Yetzer Hara, when you see that, oh, everybody's doing it, so it must be okay. It can't be all that bad. But it's like you're the salmon going up the stream, and you say, well, why should I be doing this? So the Yetzer Hara has the numbers game on its side also.
Yes. The Nefesh HaHaim here has a beautiful idea, and the same or very similar idea is in the Sefer Tanya. So I want to share it, and that is the following: Ulai gam lezeh ramzu razal. This could be, he's saying, this is a possible pshat of a Gemara in Brachos, ba'amram and Perek HaRoya. Yetzer Hara doime lezvuv. The Yetzer Hara is like a fly. V'yoshev ben shtei maftechei halev. Okay, that's the Lashon Chazal. So here comes the Nefesh HaHaim's proposed pshat. Ki yadua shemishkana Yetzer Hatov b'chalal hayemini shel halev. Very specific anatomy that the Yetzer Hatov is in the right ventricle. Okay.
Is this the patient's right, or
what'd you say?
Which right? Like the patient's right, or like who's?
The
Or,
patient's
You're
yeah.
right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but near your right hand. Umishkan Yetzer Hara b'chalal hasmoli. Okay, and the Yetzer Hara is dwelling in the left ventricle. Kamo shekasav in Koheles lev chacham liyamino v'lev ksil l'smolo. B'zeh omram. Now they say Yetzer HaToiv shoimer umakir es mekoimo liyamin tamid. So the Yetzer HaTov is a good boy, and he always keeps his place, and he stays in his spot, which is the right side. She'enu miya'etz la'adam le'olam rak l'tov amiti. He's mamish good. He's giving you
Yeah.
good eitzas to keep you on the straight and narrow path.
You know what?
Rak l'tov amiti levad.
Do you know what the word for left in Italian is?
Sinistra or
Sinistre.
something like, yeah, sinistre, it's a
Sinistre.
Latin.
Like sinister. Yeah.
Exactly.
But that's like a whole, superstitious idea in my mind. Speaking as a left-handed person.
I'm also a left-handed person.
Yeah, and there is a lot of superstition associated with this right-left thing.
maybe it's talking about left people politically.
Okay, good. So right now we're sticking with the mashal of Chazal. The Yetzer HaToiv is on the right side and sticks to its place. Aval Yetzer Hara, watch this. Watch how tricky the Yetzer Hara is. The Yetzer Hara eino shomeret mekomo hamiyuchad lo b'chalal hasmoli lahasit la'avon b'chet nigle. On the left side, he's like tempting you to do, gore grubba averas, right? But he hops out of there.
Exports the revolution.
What's that?
He exports the revolution.
He exports the revolution. Yafa. Intifada revolution, whatever, or worldwide. The Yetzer Hara midaleg mimkomo lifamim. Gam lechalal hayamin. The Yetzer Hara jumps sides, and he makes it appear like he's the good guy, and the other side are the bad guys. We recognize that in politics, right? So the Yetzer Hara jumps from his place. Lifamim gam lechalal hayamin lihizdamois la'adam ki Yetzer HaToiv. So the Yetzer Hara masquerades himself as the voice of your conscience. Lahanhigo b'tosefes kedusha. Oh yeah, I'm going to show you the way to be really from. Ve'eno margish shetocha tamun inyan ra v'mar chas v'shalom. So look how tricky it is to stay on the straight and narrow path and to do good things, because you have a Yetzer Hara who's allowed, Hashem has allowed the Yetzer Hara to jump from his side of the ship to the other side to masquerade as the good guy. It's very tricky. You have to really use your seichel and really test yourself not to fall into the traps of the Yetzer Hara. So
Sometimes
I think
it's not so
true.
obvious.
Totally not obvious.
Our friend in Italy, in Verona, asked us to bring mezuzot for their house.
Yes.
So I was thinking, is this a really smart idea? Put a mezuzah on their door? Is this going to bring them trouble? Is that a Yetzer Hara speaking? Because mezuzah is supposed to protect you.
Okay, good question.
So what's the, I've heard of that some people in Europe have mezuzot that are obscured, that are covered up, and you can't tell that it's a mezuzah.
Right. Yeah, we saw that recently. Yes, you have to be really careful. Steve, did you want to share something?
Well, just a couple of things. One long time ago, Rebbetzin Heller had a book out called Battle Plans, where they talked about the machinations of the Yetzer Hara and how to attack each type of assault.
Nice.
It wasn't a real grabber for me, but maybe because I was totally dominated by evil. Anyway, and the other thing I wanted to say is that the Yetzer Hara is there to strengthen us and to purify us, and is an important part of our lives. We need him.
We need him. He is an important part of our life. Well said. That is a statement of depth, and it's a true insight. And so
I mean,
no one's
Mahavdil-
talking about getting rid of it entirely. Like that's not the topic. The topic is not to be fooled. But yeah, we're not talking about somehow bringing it, to its utter destruction. That's just not on the table. Shimon?
No, I mean, Lahavdil Elef B'Mavot Havdalot. Lenny Bruce once said, "You need the deviant in society because that way the rest of us will know that we're normal."
Okay. I have a note that Rabbi Frankel brings from the Vilna Gaon on Ruth, and it's a really nice idea. It says, when Naomi saw that Ruth mitametzet lalechet, she stopped arguing with Ruth. The idea here is that the evil inclination is comparable to a fly that sits between the two gateways of the heart. This means that the good inclination only gives advice to perform mitzvahs. However, the evil inclination persuades a person to perform averas. But if it sees that it's not successful, then it tempts him to perform a mitzvah, which is cloaked in many sins. And if a person wants to test if at the time a mitzvah opportunity comes before him, is it from the Yetzer Hara or not? How do you run the litmus test? Okay, this is really interesting. He should check at the time of performing the mitzvah to see if his limbs are moving with alacrity to perform the mitzvah. You feel driven, you're like lifted to go do the mitzvah. Where is that coming from? What's driving you to do the mitzvah? If so, it is to be assumed that it's from the evil inclination. Mitzvahs are hard. If a mitzvah is a mitzvah, then you probably have to sort of force yourself to do it. If you're running to do it, you have to question if this is not an urge of the Yetzer Hara. For how can it be that the heavy physical limbs of the body, which derive from Yesod HaAfar, the element of earth, and which naturally follow after physical desire, which descends to the depths as the nature of earth, will be filled with the desire to do good? It can only be the Eitzah of the Yetzer Hara who will subsequently trap him in its net. Now, I actually think it's an oversimplification because there are times like you go to daven every day and you get into good habits and your body leads you possibly with alacrity to do mitzvahs. So I don't think always that, when you do a mitzvah, b'simcha, or with energy, that it's the Yetzer Hara. That's just not true. But I do think one has to be really careful that when you feel pushed to do a mitzvah out of the ordinary, you have to ask yourself, where is this coming from? Is this really coming from a good place? Or is it really the Yetzer Hara in disguise? It's an important mental exercise that you have to do when especially if you're getting involved in someone else's affairs. Why are you getting involved in their affairs? Oh, I'm going to do a big mitzvah of tochacha, or I'm going to save him from this or that. Think twice and ask yourself, is this really coming from a good place? Okay, that was the Haggah. We're back to the text. We're talking about now the zehirus. Be really careful with the mitzvahs and the Yetzer Hara and so forth. Lezot hizaher b'nafshecha me'od. Be very careful. She'al yashiacha yitzrecha lemor. She'ikar hakol tir'eh she'te'ach asuk kol yamecha letaher machshavtecha karu'oi. This is what he's talking about. It's clearly a Hasidic thing where a person gets it in his head that the whole lifelong pursuit of an Eved Hashem, of a true Jew, is to purify his thoughts properly. Dvekus machshavto b'voira'acha b'tmidus baltimot. That you got to keep your thoughts constantly focused on God, never breaking away. V'lo tashuv mipnei kol le'aniach toyer machshavtecha b'shum eis klal. Never ever to break away from God, only dvekus all the time, which sounds good, right? But v'akol l'shem shemayim, and it's all for the sake of heaven. V'amro lecha shekol ikar Torah mitzvahs hein dafka kishehem bekavana atzuma ubedvekus amiti. And so far it all sounds convincing that these are all good things, that the Torah and mitzvahs are all about kavana, dveikus, because man she'ein lev ha'adam, malela soisem bekavana kedoisha, ubedveikus v'taharas ha'machshava, eina nechsheves lemitzvah v'avoida klal. Now we see that there's a trick and a trap here, that the Yetzer is telling you, you always got to be on the highest level of kedusha v'tahara and totally davuk b'Hashem. And if you're not, your mitzvahs are garnished. They're not worth anything. They're worthless. So don't bother. Okay? And that's obviously a trap, because
So-
mitzvahs are always valuable, whether you do them lishma or shelo lishma. So this seifa, the end of the sentence, that if you can't do it on a high level of intent, don't do it at all, is clearly false. But we could see how people would get to that, and he's gonna carry on with the example and bring it through. Jay, you want to say something?
No, I just, I've seen this this kind of behavior. It's like, if I can't have it perfect, I don't want it at all.
Right.
No, it's obviously not a mature attitude.
It's true. It's an immature attitude. That's a good description, and I think that's part of who the Nefesh HaHaim is talking to. He's talking to Bachrim. He's talking to immature people who get these like sort of all or nothing, these binary ideas. It's it's 1 or 0. It's everything or it's nothing. If I can't do the mitzvah totally bitaro bitveikus, then I better not do it at all. And that's not the way life works. It's just not like that.
I heard a story of someone who was looking for the perfect etrog and couldn't find it, So
Okay.
he just gave up. He gave up altogether,
I hear you. Yes.
I don't have that. If I don't get the perfection, then I don't want it at all.
Okay. That's clearly not the way.
I've heard in the same vein, someone locally here who is a I don't know how to describe her, but she's, I guess, I don't know, some type of psychologist. She's like sort of like a sex therapist, and but she's Shomer Shabbat. She says one of the things that drives the young young Bachrim away, and completely off, eventually off the derech completely, because in their in their youth, if they're not controlling themselves, then whatever guilt or whatever it is, they feel they're not worthy, and they throw off the whole yoke because they can't be tahar in this regard.
Yeah.
And they just give it up completely. And it's I'm not sitting in judgment of them. I'm just saying that I kind of I understand that path, because you say it's like, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve this, I'm hypocritical, and I'm not going to do this. So
This goes back to the Garden of Eden. This is what the Nachash did to Chava, and he tells you you're not allowed to eat from any of the trees, and she's like, no, we can. And he says, and she says, we're not allowed to touch it, and he pushes her to touch it. And so he builds up this sort of impossible situation that you can't live up to, and which causes you to throw the whole thing away. So that is a classic Yetzirah type of ploy to build like a straw man of the impossibility and of perfection and sinlessness and total tahara, and nobody's on that level, and so it leads you to a bad place.
It's particularly true with respect to controlling your thought. It's one thing control your actions, but your thought,
for sure,
very, very hard.
The Ramban, absolutely true, Jay. The Ramban reassures us that afilu Chasidim Arishoinim had Hirhurim Roim. Nobody is exempt from Hirhurim Roim. That's absolutely true. Okay. Kasher Kvarlum. Yes, Steve.
Oh, real quickie. It just reminded me of one of the things I used to say to people who have kind of given up on themselves.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you account for the fact that God has kept you alive?
If I could add one last little story.
Please.
There's a famous story of some yeshiva bachrim at the beach learning Gemara, and then the Rosh Yeshiva walks by, And he's like, well, this is how you learn Gemara. So they say, no, this is how we go to the beach.
Yeah, David. Kasher kvar loimed hamelech zaken v'ksiel. There's the melech zaken v'ksiel. That's a reference to the Yetzer Hara, how he's called in Koheles. Kasher kvar loimed hamelech zaken v'ksiel lissamot einayim. How he blinds the eyes. V'lahavi rayotav, and he has all these proofs. He's really learned. He knows psukim, mishnayos, gemaras, midrashim, sefer hazohar. He has all these proofs of why you have to be totally pure and kadosh. Ki inyan rachmana liba boy, the kahena rabbi simo chavilot ra'ayot. He has sacks full of proofs and mamare chazal that again a learned person is confusing himself and thinking I can only do the mitzvahs when I am betahara and when I am davuk b'Hashem, and if I'm not there, it's worthless and it's pointless. So that's all part of the eights of the Yetzer. Omnam im tizke lahavchin be'enei sechel al pi Torah. But if you will sort of grow up and mature, and you should merit to discern the matter, you're using your true intelligence of the Torah. Tavin v'timsa shezeh kol inyano leharot le'adam telafav v'simanei tahara shedarko b'kodesh v'raglav yordos mavis rachmana litzlan. This is a reference to the pig. The pig, of course, has one of the simani kashrus, that it has the split hooves, but it doesn't chew its cud. But you can all picture the pig at the luau, and it's putting forth its lafa, its claws that are cloven, saying, kosher ani. The pig says, I'm a kosher animal. Look, I have cloven hooves. And that's like Esav, and that's like the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara says, look, I'm bringing all these rayas from the Zohar and the Midrashim and the Gemara, but really, he's tricking you and he's taking you down to death and destruction. So let me show you the ways of the Yetzer here. V'chakem gam b'zeh. Ekshu chacham lehara me'ein toif. He's using good things and he's turning them upside down. Hayom yomar lecha shekol Torah mitzvah shebelo dveikus einano klum. He starts by saying it's very important to serve God with a full heart, and any Torah and mitzvahs which is not done with complete dveikus is worthless. You got to prepare yourself. So before you dare do a mitzvah, which is the service of the Almighty, how dare you? You first have to prepare yourself. You got to go to the mikvah. You got to sit and think and purify all your thoughts. Tefillah, how could you do a mitzvah or davening? L'machshavet tahira, shevet tahiros. You got to get to the highest level before you dare do the Torah, the mitzvah, the davening. B'kol kach tehei machshavtecha truda b'hachanata mitzvah terem asota. You're going to spend so much time preparing yourself for the mitzvah. Ad sheyavor zman hamitzvah. Oops, we missed the zman. We missed zman shachris, because we were so busy getting ready for Shachris that it got to be 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, but we never got to that madrega of Taras Alev that we felt that it was appropriate to pray. Lamaisa, we missed Shachris. So Yavor Zman HaMitzvah Atfila V'yerelecha Panim Shekol Tfila O Mitzvah Shenases B'Kavana Atzuma B'Kedusha V'Tahara Av Shelo B'Zmana. Yeah. But if we daven with great kavana after the zman, that's much better. Okay, that's l'mala min hazman. Harehi yikara mikiyum hamitzvah bizmana v'shelo bekavana. So you have here this is like classic Hasidish versus Misnagdim, where the Misnagid says, just do it, do the mitzvah on time, according to the rules. And the Chassid, which the Nefesh HaHaim is portraying as the voice of the Yetzer Hara, is saying, no, don't do the mitzvah now. First, you got to purify yourself and prepare for it. and reach a high level of dvekus and kedusha v'tahara, and then you could do it. Now, even though that may be after the zman, but so what? A mitzvah b'kavanu b'dvekus after the zman is better than doing the mitzvah without kavana b'zman. Okay, that's the comparison here and the way the Nefesh HaHaim is portraying it. And this was obviously halacha l'maisa. It still is. Everybody knows that in Chabad they daven at 10 a.m. on Shabbos.
But
So,
they say Kriyat Shema before that.
yeah, I understand. Today they say Kriyat Shema before, v'chule v'chule. But this was in the early days of the Hasidic movement, and these types of things were still up for grabs. And so the Vilna Gaon and the Chaim Volozhin, they saw great danger in this. And so he's really driving the point home. He's going to go further and further with it. וכשירגילך יצרך שיוקבע בלבך שלא לחוש כל כך לשינוי קביעות זמן של איזה מצווה או תפילה. So now you get in the habit of doing mitzvahs not according to your watch, not according to the time of day. מחמת קביעוס מחשבתך להיטהר ולפנות הלב תחילה בהמשך הזמן. You're spending your time purifying your heart and getting your thoughts under control. So what's going to happen? בהמשך הזמן ידריכך לאט לאט בחלק שפתיו ממדרגה למדרגה. One thing leads to another. The Yetzer Hara is working on you. ולא תרגיש כלל עד שממילא יהא לך כהתר להעביר מועד התפילה או המצווה. אף גם שתפנה ליבך לבטלה בדברים בטלים. Let's say you're a Hasidic bacher and you've gotten so used to preparing for davening, and so you end up davening at 11 or 12, whatever. So then you just start sleeping late and you start doing whatever you want, dvarim b'telim, but you've gotten into the habit of not being makpid on zmanim. And so you're like lost. Your life is upside down. וידיחך מכל ולא ישאיר לך לא מעשה מצווה בזמנה ולא מחשבה טובה. So now you have neither one. You don't have the kiyum mitzvah on time, and you don't have the machshava tova, because the Yetzer Hara has tricked you and led you astray. V'gam hareu harisat kol haTorah bichlala. Rachmana litzlan. He's pushing it. This is a destruction of Torah life, because Torah life is predicated on doing the right thing at the right time. Im chas v'shalom novelo, if we'll listen to him, lahatot ozen lechalak sfatav b'darko zeh, if we're going to listen to his smooth talk, hageh atzmecha, think about it. Kigonim yatrid adam atzmo laila harishoina shel Pesach. Okay, we're at Leila Seder, right? And we all know Leila Seder and the Mitzvos Leila Seder, but this guy is now totally preoccupied with preparing machshavas tahiros for kavanas achilas kazayas matzah. I'm not going to eat the matzah till I prepared myself to eat it b'kedusha v'tahara. Shetehei achila b'kedusha v'tahara v'dvekus. B'yamshicha hachana, I got to go to the mikvah, I got to put on my gartel, I got to say this, do that, whatever. Kol halayla, until I spent all night in these preparations. Ad sheyumshach zman achila, ad la'achar she'ala amud hashachar, o la'achar neitzachama. He ends up eating the kazayas matzah in the morning after the night is over. Oy vey. Harei kol taharas machshavto pigul hu lo yeratzeh. Instead of a mitzvah, he has, quote, pigul. He has done something terrible.
Sounds like an exaggeration. I mean, I could take kach, gonna eat them. Yeah, eat the matzah after the sunrise.
It's almost a story from the Agada, though.
Yeah. It's like
Right.
the Achi Gizman Kriyat Shema Shel Shachris. So on the one hand, I sort of agree, Jay, that this is sort of reducto ad absurdum here. He's making a point and he's exaggerating. But I must say, one of the true tzaddikim, I think he is a true tzaddik, who is still alive in this generation and still does stuff like this, is the Amshenaver Rebbe. The Amshenaver Rebbe is a true gadol. He's a real Eved Hashem, but he does mitzvahs at funny times. I personally was there in his apartment in Beit Vegan, where he lit the Ner Hanukkah very close to Amud HaShachar, something like 3 or 4 a.m. And it was lit, and I left. I was there from midnight waiting for him, and he's singing and he's preparing, etc., etc. And by the time I left the house after he had sung Mausur, the sun was shining. Okay, so you say he's exaggerating, but you haven't been to these Hasidic Tishim where they do stuff like this. So the yesh kazedavar. Anyway, but it doesn't matter if it is or isn't.
I wondered about, heard about how some people, will accept Shabbat after the Shkia. Is that something?
Look, there's the Zmanim on the Jewish calendar. When exactly does the day end and the night start is a big machlokes about Shkia Sechama and Ben Ishmashos and Seiskuchavim. So that's a serious halachic dispute. And for a long time in Europe, they started the night later than we do, which also has to do with the European OFEC, but it's not our sugya. So I'm not going to go there right now. I'm focusing on the struggle here between mitzvah bezmana or mitzvah bekavana. And the point of the Nefesh HaHaim is that a person could get carried away with this taras alev and taras machshava until he's not doing the mitzvahs on time at all. And hooray, kiyem mitzvahs hasei aksuva b'Torah tavo alav bracha. Misha achala kazayis matzah bizmana. The simple Jew, the Litvak, he went home and he read the Haggadah and he ate the matzah. Af below kedusha v'tahara yisera. Nothing special. He didn't go to the mikvah. He didn't say l'shem yichud ki chabrichu. He just did it. But below kedusha v'tahara yisera. But he did it. He did a mitzvah of the Torah. Harekia mitzvah saseh aksuva b'Torah v'tavo alav bracha. The kahena rabot, there's innumerable examples of this. Asher imlo nichaven libenu lachush lasot kol mitzvahs b'moadam u'bizmanam. If we're not careful to do the mitzvahs on time, v'ki mai nafkusa bein zeh. How is this different? Lemishaya tokea shofar v'kavana atzuma v'leil rishon shel Pesach. He's at the Leila Seder, instead of eating the matzah, he's blowing the shofar. You got to
at least be in the tchum. You have to at least be in the tchum. I mean,
he's eating the matzah on Rosh Hashanah. And he's fasting on Erev Yom Kippur. And on Yom Kippur, he's taking the lulav. This is clearly reducto ad absurdum, right? Because nobody would really do this. On Yom Kippur, he takes the lulav, the makom mitzvahs inui, ayei mekom l'Torah. This person has destroyed the Torah. So he's proving that, getting to the high kavana is not the ikar. The ikar is do the mitzvah on time. Ve'af gam zot im lo yakshilcha ve'avarat hazman. And even if the Yetzer Hara will not convince you to totally miss the zman, yatelibcha lefanoisa uletahara ad sheyaviacha shelo yeh lecha pnai ledaktek sheteasiyas hamitzvah beofaneha kedin b'chol prateha v'lizoyer milavor al dinim mefurashim betalmud v'raboseinu agdoilim zal. So this is literature stuff of you want to do the mitzvahs according to all the rules. You want to cross the T's and dot the I's and follow all the seifim, the sifim ktanim, of all the svarim hakadoshim, the gemaras and the rishonim. So if you're totally focused just on tahara the kedusha, you're going to end up missing some of the halachas, and that's not what you want. Ba'al yavticha chayitzricha shelo yuchal liot shemirov esik taras hamachshava yugram bittul pratei amaisa. Oh, how could it be if I have all this pure intent? How could I come to miss some of the details of the halacha? Ki teda shekol zman shelibcha yemashuch ledaito lemor shekol ikar Torah ha'adam hu Shekol mitzvah o limud she'ena nekiya mikol sig upsoilis kesoilis nekiya harehi beval yeroya ubal yematze. So if you get in this sort of wrong mindset that everything is a function of kedusha v'tahara, and that's all that matters, and if you do anything with the slightest wrong intent, it's like bal yirah bal yematze, it's like mamish chametz v'pesach. Hareu mishachedcha, he is bribing you, blinding you. Allah tuchal le'ashkiach al kol pratei ma'asim ve'halachos v'dinim shetaber aleim chas v'shalom v'lo targish behem klal. Okay, Baruch Hashem. Kids, so you got to do, just do it is the theme of tonight's year. Do the mitzvahs on time according to the halachas. Don't get carried away with Taras Machshava. Taras Machshava is good, but the ikar is kiyum ha-mitzvahs. Shimon?
Yeah, no, basically that was my point. It's a masa oriented, action oriented religion. Very, very few doraitot are telling you how to think or what to think. The vast majority tell you what to do. And
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that kavanah is not important. Yes, it is, but it's not thought oriented as the primary thing.
Exactly.
So you lose the forest for the trees, as they say.
Exactly.
So, like you say, just do it. And I always bring up that line, acharei hamasa,
Nimshuchu alevavos. Exactly
nimshkot
right.
alevavot, so
The ikar is the maisa, and the machshavas are secondary. You got to do the maisa mitzvah.
But the Maisa sometimes is really difficult, very challenging because there's a lot of details. There's a lot of dikdukim, You eat
Absolutely.
ekazite matzah, but it has to be eaten within a certain period of time.
Right.
Maybe you need to get your stopwatch out, and time it.
well, no, that's true, Jay, but that's a different aspect. I'm comparing it to the
Well,
person who's so involved in his kavanah that he loses.
Yeah, the
sight
other
of-
extreme is, you're really into the Misa and you really take it, to, I don't know if to call it the extreme, but you're
Yeah.
really,
You're
really
right, Jay. There is that.
into the
There are people that
minutiae.
are so focused on the details, they sort of miss out the joy of the mitzvahs. That exists true. That also is true. So of course, like everything else, you got to find a happy medium. Okay, gentlemen, thank you for being here. Looking forward. Next week is already Tisha B'Av. So this was our last meeting for this Zman. We'll see you Bez Shem in Zman Elul, and we'll continue from there. So have a
Shagach,
good
Thank you.
Good night.
Torah
Take care,
Tova.
Stay
David.
safe.